Let's do this thing now. Hey guys, it's Kurt. I'm coming to you live again. It is June 22nd. Coming here with the Mañana No Mas account and touching base. I said I'd go live every day, and I'm working on it. If you look over my head, you'll see I'm kind of tracking a little bit of the subjects that we have been talking about in this series of lives. And if you're watching this live, I'd really love for you to get involved and put in a comment. Especially today, I feel like today might be a little more controversial of a topic. I'm going to try my best to make it less controversial, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm a direct communicator and stuff just comes out. So if you are watching this, I would love for you to put in a comment, maybe have a discussion. But here it is. And I got to catch myself. So pride cometh before the fall, right? We've all heard that phrase, pride cometh before a fall. And what if you can recognize the pride before the fall? What if you can do something about the pride issue before there's a fall? And then I have to get really, really crystal clear and transparent on this one. You see, I left Suzuki in 2020. I was laid off. And so they had massive layoffs there. And in my mind, I always thought, I'd go independent again. I'd go and do my own thing. But, when you get called into the office by surprise and said, hey, not only is today your last day, but this is your last hour, pack your crap and get out. When that happens, it's a little bit of a shock to the system. And it's different for everybody. When I got laid off, I actually felt relieved because I was unfulfilled in the position. I was unchallenged in the position at the time. And so when I got laid off, it was like a relief. But then COVID was rolling out and everybody was getting laid off. And a lot of the positions that I would have applied for, to be, on an equal basis with where I'd left Suzuki, a lot of those positions were drying up or going remote or cutting back or laying off. And then let's just face facts. It's a fact. I'm not mad. I'm not angry, but it is a fact that the focus on hiring demographically for mid to high level, executive and management type positions, well, that changed too. And so let's not brush that under the carpet. Like that really happened. Right. So diversity, equity, inclusion, straight white old males aren't at the top of the hiring chain for certain positions. Now, if it's like, digging ditches, digging holes, driving forklifts, things like that. Oh, yeah, well, you can have all those jobs. But the jobs that, you put on nice clothes, decent, and cover up your tattoos and go to the office. Well, those jobs weren't highly promoted towards people in my demographic. It happened. Like I said, I'm not here to say I'm angry or to start yelling and screaming or arguing or anything like that. It's none of that. But it's just I have to point that out. So people say, so why did you restart Mañana No Mas? Why did you go independent? Why are you being an entrepreneur? Well, because it's kind of the choice I had. I had applied for 400 jobs in 3 years. So if you think about that, I had applied for a ton of jobs. And there were a few that I turned down because, I didn't want to get vaccinated, or I couldn't travel out of the country unvaccinated and then think I could come back into the country. And so there were things that I qualified for that I took myself out of the running for because I didn't want to comply with certain social norms at the time. Now, what's interesting about talking about social norms of the time, I say it like that. And again, I'm trying to say this in the least controversial, the least confrontational way. But when you have the capacity to handle a $160,000 a year job, and they say, but you need to get this experimental medical procedure done, and you say, as a former cancer survivor, and by the way, you're never a former cancer survivor, you're always a cancer survivor. So, as a cancer survivor, am I looking to put experimental medications into my body after what I've been through? No, no, I'm not. I looked at the numbers and I said, I got a 99% chance of living through this thing anyway. I'm an athlete. I've got a great respiratory system. My immune system's on point. I eat well. I get outside. I exercise. I'm really not worried about that. I'm more worried about experiments than I am about what this thing is. And so I bypassed a lot of opportunity and I had to forge my own path. Okay? So that happened. I can't change the timeline. It's already happened. It's past. So what's past is past. What's now is now. And what our future is going to be determined somewhat by the decisions that I make today. Pride cometh before the fall. I'm in Southern California. You need $10,000 a month here to have a family in a house that drives a car that eats well. You need $10,000 a month. People outside of our area have a hard time processing those numbers. I mean, if you live in New York, if you live in San Francisco, if you live in Washington, D.C., someone says that, you're like, oh yeah, I better believe it. But better believe it. You need about 10 grand a month. For 100 grand a year, you can pull it off. Okay. So remember that's a $20,000 a year difference that I just said. And a lot of you went, oh, that's not a big deal. $20,000 a year difference is a big deal. So you need that to be here. So I think about what we've done since I lost the job at Suzuki. We paid off the car early. I did sell that car, because it was an asset that was sitting out front. I wasn't commuting anymore, and it was a waste. I looked at it one day and I thought, well, the used market's going through the roof, and I got this car out there that I'm not using. Why am I paying insurance for something I'm not even driving? So we got rid of the extra car. Okay, so we paid off a car, we sold a car, growing the business, paid for some ads, bought a ton of software, had to buy a couple of laptops. There was things going on. It's running a business. You're running a business. Now, what's interesting to me, and I'm a person of faith. If you watch any of my lives or channels, I'm a person of faith, and I believe that I've been well provided for. We have not paid rent late. Our utilities have stayed on the whole time we've been here. If the kids got sick, if my wife got sick, they've had the ability to go and get care. We've picked up our medications with no problems. So in that respect, things have gone very, very well. Very well. In the other respect, things have not. And here's where they haven't. You see, I run Mañana No Mas as an agency. An agency implies I'm not a freelancer. An agency implies I have a team of people. That team of people will help me with graphics and lead management and marketing and tasks like server maintenance, email responses, things like that. So I have this team of people to help with that, but I haven't leveraged them and used them as much as I should have because I was worried about the outgo. If you don't have enough income, if you don't have enough revenue, then you get very cognizant of the expenses or the outlay. So here I am running this agency that quite honestly should be doing $40,000, $50,000 a month in revenue. I'm not exaggerating, folks. The quality that we bring to the table, the work that we generate, the e-learning, all of that stuff. I mean, we should $40,000, $50,000 a month in ongoing revenue. That should happen. That doesn't happen, and a lot of the reason why that doesn't happen. And you know what, David? I see you in here, man. And I feel you. So January 23rd to 23, Let Go by Nissan. I'm going to put that up on the screen. Let Go by Nissan as a parts manager, now working on motorcycles from home and happier than you've been in years. Dude, exactly. And you look at the 120 grand a year and part of you is happy it's gone. You're actually relieved. You're like, oh man, I miss the money, but I don't miss the BS. And The other side of the coin, though, is that you still have to come up with some kind of revenue. You have to figure out what your new baseline for income is, what your new requirement for revenue is. And then I met all that. That's where this conversation is. And I don't think you're going to find too many entrepreneurs that are going to talk about this as plainly as I'm talking about it now. So if you sign into this as a replay, make sure you watch it, because I don't think there's too many other entrepreneurs that are just going to spit it out like I do. The rent's been paid. The cars are paid for. Everything's maintained. Gases and everything's running. I did blow up my truck last year. I got to go pick up my truck down at the shop. Had to put a new head gasket in it. My camper van. That's a $9,600 bill. $9,600. So, and I still got to go get it. Like, I got to come up with $9,600 and go get it. Right. That's the kind of thing that keeps happening here in this Southern California economy. So what I said earlier was, I need 10 grand a month to be here. I need 10 grand a month to take care of the family, feed the family, keep the cars going, keep everything insured, keep the lights on. I need 10 grand a month to make that happen. I held on thinking that the Power Sport Academy was going to generate more sales. Mañana No Mas was going to generate more sales. I would pick up more speaking engagements because I've had so much success on the road as a public speaker, and I've been getting talked up and I've been getting some referrals, but those referrals haven't turned into speaking engagements yet. And so you keep thinking, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And it's not happening as quickly as it needs to happen. Again, I'm a man of faith. I always think God is late. I tell people that all the time. I said, even as a man of faith, I think God is always late. He's never late. He's always on his time, but I always wish it was earlier, right? So here I am kind of thinking, well, how am I going to make all this work? Well, my wife says, hey, I have 3 sisters in Kansas, and I never got to pick where we lived before. What if we just moved to Kansas? At first, I hated the idea. Pride cometh before the fall. I hated the idea. How am I going to pick up this family and just move to Kansas? I ride mountain bikes. Are there any mountains in Kansas? I don't think so. I don't think so, Dorothy. So in my mind, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I started coming up with all the reasons we couldn't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. Right? Then I started looking at the money. I don't know if you know this or not, but I can live in Southeast Kansas. And I want you to wrap your head around this. As an entrepreneur, where most of my money comes in from online revenue, most of my money is made remote. So unlike David's fixing motorcycles from home. By the way, I'm very jealous of you, David. You know, I'm a Ducati certified master tech, or was when I worked for Ducati. Oh, and you're in Kansas City, Missouri? Oh, dude, we're going to be neighbors. We're going to be neighbors. The idea that David can go and work on stuff at home and make a living is awesome. From where I'm looking in Southeast Kansas, 1 month of bills here in Southern California will give me almost, not quite, but almost 4 months of living expenses in Southeast Kansas. Figure those numbers out. So last month when I paid all my bills, and I told you, ever since I've been laid off, I've managed to pay all the bills on time. I've paid the bills on time. But as I paid those bills this last month, I was like, this could have taken care, this could have erased a quarter, like a fiscal quarter in Kansas. So that's where my head's at now. But now here is where I have to be a little more transparent with you. I was looking at buying some property. So we looked in Arizona, we looked in Colorado, and we were going to do this big thing. And then that big thing turned into like, well, that ain't never going to happen because things aren't picking up the way we want them to. So we said, okay, let's buy something that pre-exists in Kansas and at least just get out of here. And at first, I was thinking about it in California money terms. I don't know if this has ever happened to you before. Maybe David knows what I'm talking about because he was used to a salary at Nissan, and now he's doing something else at home. And so you start to think in terms of the finances you're used to rather than the finances that will be. So there was a bowling alley for sale in Kansas. And I thought, well, maybe we should just buy the bowling alley. We can live behind the bowling alley. I started thinking crazy thoughts because I was thinking we needed the revenue. Like in my mind, I'm like, we need the revenue. So even if we get to Kansas, how are we going to afford it there? We need to generate all this revenue. Well, then I finally sat down with a legal pad and I work with Lifter LMS. Ta-da! I work with Lifter LMS. I work with WP Tonic. I've got Mañana No Mas, and I just signed on to work with the Marine Retailers Association. And so I looked at that and I said, well, wait a minute. I'm going to make this much with the Marine Retailers Association. I make this much with Lifter. I make this much with WP Tonic. Hold on. With just those three, I can already cover my expenses in Kansas. Even if I don't have Mañana No Mas, just those three contracts cover the expenses of being in Kansas. So then that kind of freed me up a little bit. Okay. And I said, okay, so let's forget that I need the $10,000 a month to be here. If I'm in Kansas, that picture is different. So now I don't need a bowling alley and I don't need some job for the family while I'm growing my agency. Now I can actually just focus on growing the agency, and no matter what, it's enough when we get there. You see how that kind of frees things up? So now comes the pride before the fall, and understanding how to recognize the pride and do something about it. I was joking around with a group of network friends that I deal with in business, a bunch of entrepreneurs. We're an association, we get together. And I said, man, it's a shame I'm not more of a liberal. I would have a GoFundMe page. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's always just a struggle. There's always something going on here. For instance, renter's insurance just went up in Southern California, like literally quadrupled. Like you've got a set bill and all of a sudden, boom, it's this much. Car insurance going up. My daughter got her license. She's 18. We went from $800 a year to $1,600 a year. Then it went to $1,800 a year when it renewed. And she just had an accident yesterday, which means it's going to go up again. My truck is $9,600 at the shop to get it out of the shop. Like every time you turn around, there's something else. We all have this, okay? But we use them as excuses to not make a change. And I wanted to figure out, how can I get past my excuses and be willing to make a change? So I was joking around about this GoFundMe thing, and the guys in the group said, well, dude, why don't you just do a GoFundMe? And I was like, don't be ridiculous. I could never do that. And you know what that was? That was pride. That was pride saying, you're too good to ask for help. You're too good to. And then it started to hit me. I said, wait a minute. I'm friends with a ton of people in California that are trying a side hustle or a startup, and they are struggling to get going, to make a house payment, to go to the food store. They're going to food lines and getting, baskets of food at the food bank. I'm very thankful that was not the case for us. I'm very thankful that we were able to make good here. But things started to spool around a little bit, and I didn't pursue it. I kind of tried to drop it. Well, then I was talking to Chris at Lifter LMS, and I said, man, it came up that I should just make a GoFundMe page, and I just can't bring myself to do it. And he goes, I think you should give that a shot. And I was like, what? He's like, I think you should give that a shot. And that's where it hit me. I said, that's my pride. That's my pride getting in the way of finding a way to succeed, Because here's the deal. And this is the way I started looking at this. If I do a GoFundMe page and I raise some money that covers the move, that gets us the escape plan to get out of California, I already know that I'm sustainable once I get to Kansas. It's the getting to Kansas that becomes the obstacle, because I make enough money to keep up in California, but I'm not making enough money to keep up in California and build savings to prepay for a move to get somewhere else. And so I was like, as much as it would hurt to suck in my pride and admit that, I probably could find success with this plan and get my family out there. Now, it gets even better when I think about it this way, because people say, well, what are your goals with the Mañana No Mas agency? Well, my goals have always been to create opportunities for other people, right? How do you add value to others? It was part of the John Maxwell training. How do you add value to others? Well, I want to write more books, right? So Action Leadership from the Edge is the book I put out last year. I want to make new books. I want to bring more people into the agency and be able to delegate the tasks that the agency does so that I can focus on my sweet spots, which is the public speaking, the sales, and the networking that grow more business. So the more business we grow, the more stability we have, the more people I can hire. And you get what I'm saying, right? So it creates opportunity for others and creates a body of influence, which is what I know I'm capable of doing. If I know that I'm capable of doing that, and I keep using excuses to put that off or to postpone that, that's an example of poor leadership. If I think I'm just going to magically make 25, 30 grand to take care of the things I need to do, that's a lie. I need to figure out how am I going to do that. And so I sucked it up and I put out the GoFundMe. I'll put the link right there for you. I sucked it up and I put out the GoFundMe. And then, as much as I hated to do it, I put out a series of social posts yesterday that put out that GoFundMe post. Okay. And then I was at small group last night and I got this text message, and it was the text message that I dreaded. It was the one I didn't want to see. It's what I thought was going to happen. And I want to share this with you because the outcome is different. This one's going a little long today, folks. I'm at 21 minutes now. If you've got comments, if you're watching this, feel free to drop them in the comment section. If you watch the replay, hit him with a comment. I will try to respond. I will do this. But here's the deal. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to point him out. I consider him a friend. He says, "Hey brother, so and so here. This post did not seem like you. Just in case your account was compromised." Boom, screenshot of the GoFundMe post that I put out. I sat there at small group looking at my phone. You know, I'm supposed to be in small group, but instead I'm embarrassed. And I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, do I cop out or do I just own it? Do I cop out or do I just own it? Well, a leader owns it. And I say I'm a leadership coach. So I write, dude, thanks for looking out for me. I agree that it doesn't seem like me. And it doesn't. Because if you watch my lives, I'm always talking about you got to buckle down. You got to find the opportunities within the obstacles. You got to find that energy. You got to stop with excuses and take action. But usually that take action is put on you, not asking for the help of others. And so I can see that, right? I said, I agree, and it doesn't sound like me. It was kind of a dare within a circle of entrepreneurs I meet with. Then another pro I admire, which in this case is Chris, because I already told you that, had a discussion with me where this came up again. I decided to put pride in my pocket and give it a shot. And if it works, I plan on running a series of these to help other startup families in the tech space escape. I am still torn, but committed to the experiment. Folks, it killed me to write that text because the person that wrote it is someone that I admire. And I kind of felt like maybe he's up here, maybe I'm down here, but on LinkedIn and social media, maybe it kind of feels like we're almost like peers, right? And then I put out this GoFundMe thing, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm all the way down here. I suck. Now I'm asking for help, and I suck. And that's what was in my head. Bear with me. This is what I get. I admire that. The response he sent was, I admire that. I was embarrassed, but I took ownership of it and I rolled through it. And he puts, I admire that. I'll be following along to see how it turns out. And then I said, yeah, we should probably, reconnect and encourage each other real soon. And he said, yeah, let's chat. That's just the first of a few contacts that went in that way. And I just want to reiterate this. We have a social construct that really, if we leverage it and we don't abuse it, we can really make some great things happen. There are a ton of people that want to leave California that can't afford to stay here and pay this tax base and try to grow a business and try to add opportunity for others and get stuck, because you get stuck in this whirlpool of just keeping up rather than being able to grow and accelerate. If I can already pay the bills here, and that's worth almost 4 months of bills in Kansas, Imagine if I still bring in that same revenue, because my revenue shouldn't change much. Remember, most of my revenue is generated online. So my revenue shouldn't really change much. So if I have 4 months worth of expenses covered from 1 month of work, then I'm going to be able to say after 2 months, I have what? 8 months worth of expenses. What do? I hire somebody and I delegate 20% of my work away. That frees me up for more marketing calls, more networking sessions, more sales calls, and that frees me up to bring in more business for the business. So now imagine I can make 5 or 6 months worth of bills in a month. And I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense. And now I've got this employee that I've got, but I do that for another 2 months. What can I do? I can hire another employee, and I can up the responsibilities of the first one and give them more exposure to more processes within the agency and bring the other person in to be trained by that person. You see what's happening? As I'm starting to build a leadership team that will be able to affect positivity and affect change and add value to many more people, because I'll be multiplying my efforts rather than just working longer, working harder, working faster. And so that's the goal. What I want to do is I want to be able to, Adam Silver, it says, we left SoCal and it made sense. It does make sense, Adam. The part that I'm having the struggle with, and the part that I'm getting over the struggle with, is the pride part of it. If I can make this work for me and my family and help us escape through this process, my real goal is to try and turn this into an effort, an energy, an initiative, a project. Maybe it becomes a strung off nonprofit. I don't know what it becomes. But I have a ton of people in my professional networks that have startups here in SoCal. And again, remember, you got to make 10 grand a month just to stay here. So I have a ton of people that are in the spot where they're struggling to stay rather than working to grow. And so that's what I want to try to get to. I want to get out of here. I want to get established, and then I want to try and help some others escape and help them find a pathway to that success as well. Adam says, let me offer this. Says, make sure you don't just make more work for yourself. Balance it out and rest. Dude, are you sure you're not sneaking into my house at night and seeing how I live and what I do? I do. I put in a lot of effort for what goes on. And in order to come up with that, $10, sometimes $12,000 a month that I have to make to be here, I end up burning that candle at both ends. I end up, doing 6 hours of Zoom for Lifter LMS and WP Tonic and Mañana No Mas, but then I still have to do the agency work that I sold after that. So next thing you know, it's midnight, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock, but things are getting done, and the revenue continues, and it keeps that engine going here. It keeps those wheels spinning here. So the work does make its way, but you're 100% correct. Part of the goal is, as we move and as we keep that revenue model and add staff, and by the way, I'm already documenting processes and procedures and trainings and all of that stuff, so that as I add staff, I'll be able to say, take this training module, this is what this job is. Take this training module, this is what this job is. And then kind of manage and oversee it from a project manager standpoint rather than a working manager standpoint. And so I do have those plans in place, and I am really, really good at putting a successful team together. Having done that with Ducati, Suzuki, and then of course all of the work and the consulting I do with small businesses and motorcycle dealerships. But that's the be all end all of it. I had a few people reach out to me and go, dude, this post is weird. It doesn't seem like you. And 100% didn't seem like me, because I come off, for some reason, everyone thinks I come off as like this super confident, like got it all handled, the world is my oyster kind of guy. And that's just not the case. The pride cometh before the fall. Sometimes you got to say, hey, I don't have it all together. Having a little help on this would be awesome, especially for people that are in those areas where expenses are low and there is a surplus of revenue, and they go, man, who could I help this month? Ding, ding, ding. Here's someone you can help. But what I want to do is treat this as an experiment to see if we can find a way to help others to keep that path going. I'm sure Governor Newsom doesn't like to hear that I'm trying to engineer a way to make, the Underground Railroad happen for business developers in Southern California. But it is just mind-boggling how hard the grind is here. So that's what we're trying to do. He says, you know what, dude, I'm going to hit you with this one. Consider the invite. Check out Raleigh, North Carolina. You're like the 20th person that said, dude, you wanted to come to Idaho before. Come to Idaho. You wanted to go to North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. I've had a bunch of them sent to me. Arkansas, and everyone knows that Bentonville, Arkansas is the world capital of mountain biking. So everyone's like, oh, you should go to Bentonville, Arkansas because you love to mountain bike. The reason that it's Kansas is because my wife has never chosen where we've lived before. And she has 3 sisters in the Wichita area. So we are looking southeast of Wichita. I hope southeast of Wichita. Sometimes she points things out that aren't southeast of Wichita, but I'm hoping for southeast of Wichita. And that way we'll be close to her family for the first time in our married life. And that's my way of being good to her. And dude, absolutely, I'll be a guest on your podcast. A, I love your podcast, and B, you should be on the Mañana no Mas podcast. We can talk about your silly goals. All right. Folks, I've taken enough of your time today. We're over half an hour. As I promised, I would go live every day for the month of June. And so far, we're coming up on, you dang straight it ain't, David. One of the reasons that I liked Independence, Kansas, and a place called Howard, Kansas, is when I looked up directions to Bentonville, Arkansas, it was like 2.5, 3 hours. And I got that camper van. So I'm like, I'll chuck the mountain bike in that thing. I'm gone for a weekend. I come back. I got it out of my system for a couple of weeks, and I can just, I can go back and forth. To me, that's totally doable, especially if we're meeting the financial goals that I'm setting up to make all this happen. So, folks, I love you. Thanks for taking care of me. Again, we're over a half hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Adam, thrilled that you made it to the live. Glad to see you in here. I love your comments. I love your interaction. David, if we're not, I think we're already connected, but if we're not connected on LinkedIn, let's make sure that we get connected on LinkedIn so we can connect for real. And yeah, some of the best motorcycling for sure. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to hit it up with the thanks for watching screen, and we'll be out of here. See you later. Bye-bye.